Welcome to my channel. My name is Pravin Sharma, and so what does this cracking cyber mean? So cracking cyber is nothing but just some question and answer to figure out your learning pattern, whether or not you're progressing in a way that you should or you're not there. So it just generates some random questions and answers to test your knowledge about the cybersecurity, pretty much. The reason I'm doing this is because I know that if you look at the community out there, there are tons of people out there who are trying to help each other by asking this question and answer. And I'm just going to present it in a little different way, try to gain my understanding, try to give my understanding to all this question and answers, to have a better view, to have better knowledge for anybody who is interested in learning about cybersecurity. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first question is, which of the following is considered a shared responsibility and risk in the cloud? Now, in order for us to answer that, we need to see, there are 4 different choices in there for sure, right? The first is about the phishing attacks targeting user credentials. The second is about physical theft of the data center servers. The third is misconfigured storage buckets exposing sensitive data. And finally, the last one is about natural disasters affecting the cloud provider's facility. I'm just going to give you a second or so trying to figure out which one is the right answer. And I believe the right answer here is C. And the reason C being a right answer is misconfigurations, they're the customer's responsibility in the shared responsibility. When we go into the cloud, cloud is a shared responsibility model, right? The cloud provider has some responsibility too, whereas the customer, they have some responsibility as well. So in the shared model, right, the misconfiguration that can expose the sensitive data, they can accidentally make sensitive data publicly accessible, which leads to nothing but the breaches. Now, when we're answering those questions, what we have to do is we have to look up for all possible scenarios here, or going through those questions and then answers, and then try to figure out whether or not why we're excluding those. So for instance, number 1 is about phishing attacks targeting users' credentials. So we're talking about the shared responsibility, and on the phishing, it targets humans, but not the cloud service directly. And the reason we're signaling out physical theft on B and natural disaster on D are, they're the provider's responsibility. They manage physical security and the disaster mitigation. So in summary, in the cloud, when we go into the cloud, the configuration mistakes is about customers' risk, because customers are the one who are configuring the buckets, right? I don't know. I hope you got this. And if you do, please comment below to see whether or not the way that I'm trying to express is enough, quite enough right now, or if you could give me some feedback that'll be wonderful. Now, let's go to the next question here. And this is about when you see on top, it says like ICNR, it is about incident response, creation and response. Which type of security incident involves unauthorized access to sensitive data without disrupting system operations? Denial of service, data breach, malware infection, and phishing attack. When I'm looking at all these answers, which one I want to go with? So the right answer is data breach, or B. And the reason for B is a data breach. Well, so let's understand what data breach is, right? Data breach is about your sensitive or confidential information or data that has been accessed by somebody else who are not supposed to, but somehow they got it. They looked at it, they stole it from you, and they're not the right person to do that. So it does not necessarily disrupt the system, because the system is continuing the way it is. It's just that they have stolen the data. But, you know, when we go back to the CIA triad, it means that it has compromised the confidentiality. Right? So the right answer is B here. So why denial of service? So let's understand what DOS is. DDoS is a distributed denial of service. It's the DDoS is about it disrupts the on the CIA triad, it's about the availability, right? Because the data is not available for you to access it. So that's the denial of service. Now C is about the malware infection, and the malware, it may cause disruption, but not always directly a data breach, right? And then the last one is about phishing attack. Now, the phishing it's one of the methods to attack the system, but not the result itself, right? So the breaching is about the data has been exposed, but the data is still available. There is no downtime or anything for the data, right? So just always keep that in mind. Now let's go back to the next question here. Which of the following best describes encryption at rest? So the data is, so data is rest, sleeping, not doing anything here. That's how I look at it. So let's read through some of the choices that we have here. A is about data is encrypted while being transmitted between systems. So the data is still moving. It has not in bed or it's sleeping. That's how I look at it. Data is encrypted or stored on disk or databases. That looks more promising. Let's leave it there for now. Number C is data is encrypted only during user login. I don't know about this. And the last one is about data is never encrypted but hidden with access controls. But the question is about the encryption at rest, right? So obviously it probably has figured out that the right is B, which is data is encrypted when stored on disk or databases. Encryption at rest, it's about protecting data stored on the devices, like physical devices. It could be databases, it could be a backups, file system, whatever it is. We already talked about A, which is the data is in transit there. C is about user login, so we talk about the authentication here. And D is definitely not right because access control has nothing to do with encryption. So I think you got this right? So let's move on to the next one. So this is about access control. Which access control model is based on predefined role assigned to users, such as admin or reader? To be honest with you, when I saw this question first and when I answered it, I didn't answer it right. So, but since I answered it the way that it should be, it's always sticking in my mind what will be the right answer for this. Let's take a look at it for, there are a few things that we definitely wanted to understand what each and everything is. One is about discretionary access control, which is DAC. Second one is role-based access control, which is RBAC. 3 is mandatory access control, which is MAC. And then finally, attribute-based access control, which is ABAC, right? So the correct answer here is B, which is role-based access control, or known as RBAC. In RBAC, users are assigned roles. It could be admin, it could be reader, it could be auditor, and we give the permission based on what the roles are. That's what it is. Access control based on that particular role, right? So let's talk about the discretionary access control. So this discretionary access control is about so you have a file and you're the owner of that file, and it's your discretion. You're the owner, so you decide who can access that particular file. For instance, you created a file, you want to share that file to somebody else, and it's up to you. So that's your discretion, whether or not you want to do that or not. So now, the mandatory access control is about the highly secure system. Like, whenever you see this mandatory access control, sometimes you get a question about the government, military. So whenever you see these government, military, you always want to make sure that you put the mandatory access control. It's very stringent. While the labels, the classification of the data, is it top secret, confidential, whatever it is, strictly controlled because it has very strict control, right? So, and then when we talk about the attribute-based access control, it's based on the attribute. Like, for instance, location, your department, or time meaning like you can only access it between 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. 501, you're restricted, right? You can only control it from Europe. From US, it's restricted, right? Only the HR has authority to access this data, right? Finance is restricted, something like that, right? So just want to make sure that you got that concept right. All right, let's move on. Okay, in which access control model does the resource owner decide who gets access to their files or data? Now, this particular question, I think when I was talking earlier, I pretty much said, so it should not be any issue for you to figure it out. I mean, if you look at all the answers, it's pretty much the same. It's RBAC, DAC, MAC, or APAC, right? So which one is the right one? I'm pretty sure you'll be able to figure this one. It's very simple because I already talked about it, and I'm pretty sure that, others, you probably have already read about it. So it's in my discretion on whatever I want to do with the file. So the correct answer is B. It's a discretionary access control. So I'm not going to go over all these others, are MAC, and APAC, because if you wanted to go back to the previous one, you'd be able to look at it there. Now, the next one is about which principle. So this is about identity access management, as you can see on top. Which principle states that a user should only have the minimum level of access needed to perform their job duties. Whenever we see pretty much minimum in there, right? And you look at all the answers there: need to know, defense in depth, separation of duties, and this will just caught my eyes, least privilege. And that's the right answer. So it's D is the right answer for that. Now, D is the right answer, and we need to know each and everything that's out there for us to. If you understand all what need to know is, defense in depth, separation of duties, you'll be able to figure out the right answer. So you need to understand what it is for each and everything there. So least privilege, let's talk about least privilege, right? Least privilege talks about the users only get the permissions they're absolute necessary to do your task, right? If you've been assigned for a certain task to do, if you have right authority to do that, or if you have right authority, you'll be able to do that. You need to have the authority, right? Somebody is giving you a task to do something on a file. You need to access the file first, right? So if you can access the file, then you're good to go. But let's say, for instance, there are 10 files in one folder, right? You've been given access to access just one file. Other 9 files, you won't be able to access it because this is the principle of the least privilege. So you need to understand that, right? So let's go back and see what need to know is. It's a similar kind of concept, but it's focused on access to sensitive information, right? Now, what is sought or separation of duties? Segregation, separation of duties. It's about. So this is a very interesting one for separation of duties, is because like to finish one task, you need to have like 3 or 4 people, depending on how many people need to involve in that particular task to do. Because if everybody does one task, then the separation of duties are not there. You'll have absolute power to bend the rules and take advantage of it. So it's about splitting tasks so that no single person has too much power. I mean, like, if you look at the politics also, we have executive branch, we have legislative branch, and we have judicial branch. And the reason that we have 3 different branches is because like one branch did not have an absolute power, because if that happens, that power can do a lot, right? The other thing is about the defense in depth, and it's also one of the greatest concept, and we can spend hours on this one as well. Defense in depth is nothing but it's laying out multiple security controls, right? So that's what the defense's depth is. So for you to get to the bottom of it, you probably have to go through like 5 or 6 different bar, and then you have to cross each bar to be there. So that's what the defensive depth is. So it's about protecting your information, right? So that's pretty much what it is. Now let's move on to the next question here. All right, so if you look at the answer, it's the same thing. It's again, it's about IAM. Which principle? Now these are all the principles, right? So which principle is applied when different people are required to complete different parts of a sensitive task? For example, one person approves a payment and other person processes it. We already talked about it, so it's going to be so easy for you to figure it out. And you're right, it's SOD or it's a separation of duties, and the answer is C. Now, so this is about the multi-factor authentication. Which of the following is not, so this is not is the keyword here, considered a factor in multi-factor authentication, right? So you probably know about these three: something you know, something you have, and something you are. Something you know the password, you know the PIN. Something you have that you carry, you've been carrying like security token or a smart card. And then something you are, it's within you, your fingerprint or your retina scan, right? If you look at the answer D here, it says something you can guess, right? We're talking about the multi-factor authentication. And if you can guess it, it's not going to be another authentication method for you to get in. So you can pretty much say that the right answer is D in here. Right? So I think you got this one. MFA is about the it's about the independent factors, no weak guesses there, right? So I'm pretty sure you already know about multi-factor authentication or second factor authentication, 2FA, whatever you want to call it, right? So when you're trying to log in, like for instance, when you're trying to log into AWS, it looks for that PIN or the password that gets generated through your phone, or like they send you a text, or like, there are some authentication application there that's in your phone. It sends you those, numbers, and then you have to key in those numbers for you to get in there. So that's what the MFA is all about. Now this is about the threat. So let's talk about which type of malware is specifically designed to encrypt a victim's file and demand payment for the decryption key. All right, so can you guess which one is it? Now, before you guess it, you have to know about what the spyware is, what ransomware is, what Trojan is, and what the worm is. Right? So if you can figure those out, then the question would be very, very simple. All right, so I think the answer here is B. So let's take a look at that one first to see whether or not B is the right answer or no. Yes, the B is the right answer there. And B is about the ransomware, right? So what is ransomware? They're looking for a ransom. They're looking for some money, right? So that they can decrypt the file, right? So ransomware, it encrypts a victim's file, and they ask for money so that they can decrypt the key. That's all about. That's what it is. The ransomware. Now, what is spyware? Spyware, what they do is they collect your information and you're not even aware of it. So they do that very, very secretly. Now, Trojan, I always look at Trojan horse, right? You know about Trojan horse. It disguises itself and it feels like it's the right program. It's a legit program. And then it delivers the malware. Now, what is worm, right? Worm spreads automatically across network without your interaction. So those are the things that you have there. Now, let's look at the other question here. Okay. Which of the following is a primary risk of using public cloud services? This is about the cloud security threat. Limited scalability, data breaches due to shared infrastructure, inability to access data from multiple locations, or automatic software updates. of course, there's got to be some risk when you use the public cloud services. Now, is public cloud services has limited scalability? I don't think so. So A is out. B is about data breaches due to shared infrastructure. Let's leave that for now to see whether or not that's the right one. Now, the third one is about inability to access data from multiple locations. I don't think that's an issue because you'll be able to access data from anywhere, right? As long as you're in the public cloud. So C is out. It is about automatic software updates. Okay. When you're doing the automatic software updates, it has no risk whatsoever. So I believe the right answer would be B. Let's see. Yeah, we got it right. We got it absolutely right. So B is the right answer on this one. Now, I already explained you what when I was going through this. But I want to mention this to you that whenever you're in the public cloud, always make sure that it's scalable and the resources can be shared. And the public cloud, you need to make sure that you're going to secure that public cloud. And it'll be secured if you configure it properly. Right? So that's what it is. All right, next is about which authentication method. This is about IAM. Which authentication method requires 2 or more different factors to verify user's identity. Well, we were talking about it earlier. I think I mentioned that to you. Pretty much everybody's very aware of it. Single sign-on has nothing to do with it because, single sign-on will let you access other application without the need of user ID and password again. So the next one is about multi-factor authentication. Let's leave that in there. Role-based access control. We talked about it before. Biometric only authentication. So it's about authentication. It has nothing to do with it. So there's no multi-factor that's in there. So I think the right answer is B on this one too. Yeah, we got that one right too. So I think we're progressing in a way that, it's very cool. All right, so I think pretty much everybody got the concept of it. So let's move on to the next question, which is about the encryption. All right, I love encryption. I love to do encryption. Which type of encryption uses the same key for both encrypting and decrypting data? So it's a single key that's going to get utilized in encrypting and decrypting the same data. So whenever we look at encryption, I look at like symmetric and asymmetric, right? Symmetric has single key and asymmetric has 2 keys, if that makes sense. From that definition, which one do you think is the right answer? Okay, hashing. What is hashing? It's one of the way. And if there's a slight change in it, then the whole thing is changed, right? So it's one way and it cannot be reversed. What is PKI? Public key infrastructure. It's about a framework. It supports the asymmetric encryption and it does contain the digital certificates. Now, I think you pretty much got it, right? So the right answer on this one would be the symmetric encryption. Let's see. Yeah, we got this one right too. I think we're getting into the right territory here. All right, let's move on to the next one. CIA. I love it, CIA. Which of the following components of the CIA triad ensures that only authorized users can access data? So CIA triad is nothing but it's confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Right? So which one do you think is the right answer here? Ensures that only authorized users, right? Integrity is about data integrity. There should not be any kind of alteration in the data, right? So if there is an alternation in the data, so the integrity piece gets missed and there's no integrity in there. Availability is about whenever somebody needs that data needs to be available for that particular individual to access it. So it has nothing to do with the authorized users can access data, right? Accountability. Accountability is about tracking your actions, what you have done, right? So I log into the system and try to figure out what you have done. You're accountable for your action. Be careful in there. So it leads me to the confidentiality. Let's see if that's the right one. Yeah, I think we got the right. So confidentiality ensures that only authorized users can access that particular information. That information could be sensitive, right? Now, integrity, we talked about it. It ensures data is accurate and it's unaltered, or there is nobody's messing up with this data. Availability ensures that data and system are accessible when needed. Whenever I want to access that, it needs to be there. Otherwise, that availability part is not there. We talk about the accounting is about tracking your action through logging, right? Let's move on to the next one. I think I'm taking lots of time in here. All right, so network attack. Okay, what is it? Which type of attack involves an attacker flooding a system with traffic to make it unavailable to legitimate users? And this is about, CIA triad, and the third one, CIA. It's getting unavailable. A is man-in-the-middle attack. D is denial of service attack. We talked about denial of service earlier. We talked about it. Phishing is another one, and SQL injection is another one, right? So, flooding a system. Flooding a system can only be done by doing the service interruption. And when you look at option B, it talks about denial of service. What denial of service does, it keeps sending that request, right? And when you are getting those kind of requests, like over multiple requests like that, it overwhelms a system. I mean, even like for yourself also, somebody's asking like too many questions, you get overwhelmed, right? And then in a system, from the system perspective, it overwhelms a system with that particular traffic that's coming in, and it becomes unavailable. So when the system is unavailable, it means that somebody who is trying to access that particular system is not able to do so, right? So it's block the legitimate users. Yeah, B is the right answer for that. I forgot about the B. All right, so let's talk about man-in-the-middle attack, right? So what is man-in-the-middle, MITM? There are two systems, A and B, right? It thinks that A is talking to B, but at the same time, there's a man that comes in the middle and takes it over, and A is talking to that particular man. Let's call him C. And then A thinks like A is talking to B, but actually, in all reality, he's talking to C, right? So it intercepts and potentially alters the communication because A is constantly feeding that information, thinking like, well, I'm giving it to the C, to B, but B is not there. So he's taking all that information, right? Now, option C is about phishing. Phishing is about tricking users. When you trick somebody, you provide that sensitive information, and with that sensitive information, that individual can literally damage the system. So you got to be very, very careful, right, on that. And SQL injection is about the database, right? And then what they do is they put the queries, the SQL queries within that database, and then they put these malicious queries in that database, and they extract that information out from there, right? So got to be a little careful in there as well. Now let's move on to the next one, and that's the end of it. So the reason I'm doing this is because like there are less than like 15 questions altogether, I would say, right? So it's just a trial to see whether or not you're gonna like it or no. If you do like it, please subscribe to this channel, right? Because I need more subscriber. The more subscriber, the more information is getting shared, right? And then if you like it, obviously put a like in there, and you can hit that bell icon also, so that next time I upload the video, it's going to be available to you, and it's just going to pop right into your phone or into your desktop if you're using it. And that way, you know, I want to create some level of partnership in here that I'm looking for your feedback. I'm looking for a way to improve this channel, and I want to make sure that I'm going to hit as many people as possible so that everybody's armed with that information. I want everybody to be very, very careful. And you know, when we talk about cybersecurity, right, a lot of people think about like, okay, protecting company's asset. It's not about just company asset. It's about protecting your asset as well, right? Whether or not you're doing all the things that are required, who knows? Maybe you're getting attacked. You never know, right? By learning about it, by knowing what exactly it is, by knowing what are the ways that the intruder can interfere with your system, you can go along a long way, right? And always think this is a journey. And in this journey, you can see lots of this people. Some are good people, some are bad people, right? In order for us to root the bad people out so that we can create a better world, that's what we're looking at it. So until next time, thank you so much for staying with me, and I'm looking for your precious feedback so that I can improve. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Thank you.